Hello, it's muskndusk again. I'm chatting away here. There'll probably be lots of and and buts and things like that. I had a few requests to make a new video and to make a ramble video in particular. Now I apologise in advance for if there are any cat noises in the background, because my 3 cats are all in, and I'll talk about that in a moment as to why they're in. Anyway, here I go again, and I might just as well start talking about my pussycats. And one of my cats, Victoria, had to go to the vets earlier in the week because she's got a poorly mouth. It's a problem that started just before Christmas. I had to take her to the vets because she was dribbling a lot and she did a big meow, and I managed to look inside her mouth and saw a big lump on one side of her mouth. I persuaded her to meow again so I could have another look just to be sure. So I whisked her off to the vet, worried that she had a form of cancer, which escapes me. It's something cell carcinoma, which will come to me in a moment. I should have written it down before I started the video. And years ago, a cat of mine called Max died from this particular illness, and when I took her to the vet just before Christmas, even the vet thought that she had this problem, and I knew that if she had it, she'd probably be a goner within a few weeks. But she had an operation and a biopsy, which luckily turned out to be negative. She didn't have the cancer, she had a condition called eosinophilic granuloma instead, which is an annoying condition which comes and goes, but it can be treated with steroids, and while she's on high dose steroids she has to take antibiotics, and eventually it goes away, but it comes back again after a few months. So I took her to the vet earlier in the week, and he had a look inside her mouth, and lo and behold, the condition had come back. So she's now having to have the steroids mixed in with her food, along with some antibiotics, and she's got to go back and see the vet in a couple of weeks' time, which she won't like at all because she didn't like going last time, mostly because we had to wait in the waiting room for quite a long time for the taxi to turn up. I don't drive, so I have to rely on taxis when I take my cats to the vets. But she's having the pills okay. I crush them up and hide it in her food, and she's such a big pig that she just gobbles up the food and the tablets with it. But she's grounded at the moment because she started to find a way into my garage, and I don't want her to do this because my garage has an asbestos roof, and I did ask the vet whether cats get the condition, the lung condition, which is caused by the asbestos in humans, and he said he thought it was unlikely, but then qualified it by saying that usually when a cat or a dog has cancer of the lung, they don't investigate what type it is, because the prognosis is usually so poor anyway. So to get her out of the habit of hiding in my garage, I've decided to keep her in for a week or so. The other two are quite happily staying in, though I do let them out now and again. That's Lucy and Cedric, who are at this very moment cuddled up with each other. Lucy got caught in the rain earlier. She went out and it started absolutely bucketing down with rain, so I had one very soggy moggy coming up to the window asking to be let in. Cedric's starting also to have little black patches on his fur, on his back, and they're not patches of normal coloration. They look sort of oily, though they're not too bad. I've been rubbing them with tissue to try and get the worst of it off. A friend of mine has told me that she's seen him sitting under cars at the front of the house, which concerned me because I had hoped that they didn't go to the front of the house. But I've had several reports now that Lucy and Cedric at least do go to the front of the house. My next door neighbour said that they sleep in his garden, in the front garden, and also this friend of mine who's seen Cedric sleeping under a car, which is probably where he gets the black marks from an exhaust pipe or something. Luckily he's a cat with good hearing, so if an engine ever starts up, hopefully he'll run out from under the car and save himself from being crushed, because I'd hate that to happen to him. I have some foxes who come to play in my garden now and again. They're very healthy looking foxes. I don't know what they're eating. I imagine that the local squirrel population is probably being decimated by them, but that's not such a bad thing. Poor squirrels. At first I just saw one, and then I saw one with a young, not a newborn, but a few months old, and more recently I've seen an adult with 3 young. I've done research on the internet, and normally they don't bother cats. I've even looked at YouTube videos of cats versus foxes. And usually the foxes are very scared of cat claws, because the cats lash out at the fox's face and the fox immediately backs off, frightened of the claws. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they'll be okay. I've also been doing the usual of playing with some spirograph, which I like doing. I recently ordered a very strange looking set of spirograph from eBay called the Spirograph 2000. Now, it looks very strange and I've got absolutely no idea how it works, but it's going to turn up with a manual which will perhaps explain how it works and what sort of things I can do with it. It didn't cost very much, so I thought it was probably worth a risk. Just before Christmas, for my Christmas present to myself, I bought myself a set of wild gears. Now these are some laser cut, rather expensive spirograph. I bought the full page set, the version 2, and they make very different types of shapes to the shapes that you can make with spirograph. For one thing, you can make much larger shapes with it, and also a lot of the larger gears have sort of little holes in them where you can use a smaller gear, so you can have the one gear going round and a smaller gear going round inside it, and you never really know what sort of design is going to turn out, and they're quite exciting to use when you want to be adventurous, but they are rather expensive, possibly because I think they're made to order, and the shipping as well isn't cheap, which is why I made it my Christmas present to myself. I've also been doing some writing. There was a first draft of a novel that I started in, I think it was 2012, for NaNoWriMo, and unfortunately I became ill when I was only 22,000 words into the novel. So I decided to pick it up and, run with it again. If any of you have seen the video of me whispering The Haunted, it's not that novel. It's another novel. This one is about a woman going through a certain time of life who also starts to have delusions that she's being visited by vampires, and it gets quite complex and turns into a sort of love triangle. I do have a problem with writing in that I have problems finishing what I start. I start things with great enthusiasm, and I can carry on with great enthusiasm to the middle, but at some point or other I start to think, this is absolute shit, excuse my French, and become very despairing about what I've written and think it's just not worth carrying on. It's just rubbish. And so I stop. But this is something that I must overcome. The closest I've come to finishing something was a novel I wrote back in the 80s, which was based in the aftermath of a nuclear attack. But I was just sort of finishing the second draft when the INF Treaty was signed, the Berlin Wall came down, and there was a sense that we're all okay now, which of course we're not. But at that time there was no such thing as self-publishing, and I realised that traditional publishers would have had no interest in it whatsoever. So a novel that had been called The Seventh Angel became called The Redundant Angel. I might at some point revisit that because it was very close to being finished. Likewise, The Haunted. I did win NaNoWriMo with that. There were 50,000 words written of it, but then I just collapsed in an exhausted heap because NaNoWriMo is exhausting, as I'm sure anyone who's ever done it will know. Anyway, I've been rambling now for just over 18 minutes. I'll try to get this up on YouTube so that there's at least something to let you know I'm still here. I post quite a lot of comments on YouTube. It's just that time goes so quickly, and I kind of lose track of how long it's been since I last made a video. But people are getting very impatient for one of my videos. I hope this is okay and doesn't disappoint. As usual, I've just talked about my cats. But anyway, if you're going to sleep now, have a nice night. And if you're just taking a few minutes out of a tiring day, then I hope the rest of your day is pleasant. Bye for now.